Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 3 and episode number 245 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day is Monday, November 6, 2023, and it looks like it's going to be a lovely day here at the Beaver Lodge now that I can see the day. Because last week it was pitch black when I looked out the window.
That one won't stay this way for long, though. You know, days get shorter up until the 21st, and then it's like...
Yep, indeed. Hey, thank you to our podcast funding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. We have a special treat for you today, kids. But before we get to that, let's ask Mr. Grizzly how he's doing and how is your mental health today, sir?
Well, good morning, Mr. Beaver. I fell asleep at 9 o'clock last night, out like a light. I was exhausted. I was in Toronto for the weekend, and we were up late. Saw a few concerts. You know, it was a busy weekend, very busy weekend. Then drive home yesterday, and then, anyway, I was asleep very early, and I think my mental health is really good today. Actually, I'm just not fully awake. I'm on my first coffee, and I've not. Yeah, I'm shaking the cobwebs out still, but lots of sleep, well rested. Had a great weekend. It was a good time. Had a few complications along the way that ended up. Let's just say I had a route to save money, and it was planned, and Bridget was like, "Yeah, no, that's perfect. That works out great." And then that plan exploded and ended up costing me more money than the alternative method. Because I initially thought, well, why don't we take the train? I'll book us a couple of tickets on the Tuesday. You know how it's cheap on Tuesday. Book a couple of tickets, and I went, cheapest I can get is around this much money. I think I can find a rental for less. Found a rental car for $65 for the whole weekend.
All right.
Great smoking deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, when I showed up, they neglected to tell me, oh, and by the way, because I booked it through a certain booking company, it's paid for in full, in advance. No refunds, that's it. The money's gone. So it's $65 gone.
Okay.
So we show up there, and they go, we need 3 pieces of ID. I go, 3? I go, here's my credit card and my driver's license. They go, we need another photo ID. I'm like, what? Or maybe vehicle registration. Luckily enough, I had that in my wallet. So I go, here, for a vehicle I sold, but it's still,
Right.
identifies me. She goes, okay, and we need a $1,500 deposit. And I went, excuse me? $1,500? Look, industry standard is $350 to $400. On the high end, $500. $1,500?
Whoa.
Like, I don't I'm not prepared to do that. I just wasn't comfortable with that.
I can
That's a
understand
lot
that.
of money to lay down for a deposit for a rental. I mean, my
Yeah.
goodness. So
And
I
that
said,
wasn't
cancel.
upfront known?
Yeah, it wasn't upfront. And
No.
it's nowhere in the
Mm-mm.
document. And I said to the folks, I said, look, I'm not angry with you. I said, I'm not angry with you. It should have been up to the booking company to provide that information to me. They did not.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't provide that information.
Yep.
Had I known that in advance, I never would have booked. I'm like, no, I'm not paying that. No, I'm not doing that. So I immediately got on my phone, went to Enterprise, booked a car within 5 minutes at the airport. We were a 10-minute drive away, called an Uber, got the Uber to the airport. We were in our rental car in moments. Their service was spectacular. They wanted a $400 deposit, which is standard for rental cars. No problem. Didn't even think about that. Here you go. And when I returned the car last night, they refunded everything instantly. Normally how a deposit takes 2 or 3 days. No,
Right.
it was like instant.
Nice.
So I'm like, yeah, I will praise them. I will use them from here on out for rentals.
Right. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. So
All right.
yeah. So that was my weekend.
Good stuff. All right. Well, I did something really interesting this weekend. Every now and then I get to act as a standard patient for pharmacy students doing an exam.
Oh
And
yes.
someone from the theater community here in Kingston, with whom I've sort of worked, but we haven't worked on a project together yet. But who I really respect was working that day with me, and she asked about the podcast. And turns out that currently on stage, there is a play that fits really right in with what we do.
Mhm.
And since we like to profile Canadians who make us proud, I thought, why not? She suggested coming on the show, and I thought that was a great idea. So the person that we have for you kids is an actress, a playwright, singer, director, designer, was the artistic director of the Red Sandcastle Theatre and for a while, I believe, and is now the artistic director at Theatre Kingston. Her name
Mhm.
is Rosemary Doyle. So please put your paws up and give a big round of applause. Welcome to the Beaver Lodge.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Mhm. How are you today?
I'm good. It's early and it's nice, and I'm usually a morning person, so it's actually kind of a bit fun not to have to have something to do as opposed to waiting for the world to wake up, you know?
Yes, exactly.
Anyway.
We were talking about that too, because waking up early to do the show. Rosemary, on this show, we've had people come in before for interviews on the issue. And for everyone listening here, we're going to be talking about abortion. So all the trigger warnings, please. But we've had panel discussions on it. It's a subject that we're very concerned about, especially. And it was really interesting because when we saw what was happening with Roe versus Wade in the States,
Exactly.
we had our first panel. We had like 3 people come in. It was the first time we ever did a panel on
Yeah,
our show.
Mhm.
That's what inspired me to get Chloe Whitehorn to write this play, because
Right.
it when I heard you kind of feel that something has been fixed, that we've won that battle. And when Roe versus Wade happened, I felt as a woman, okay, that battle has been won. We can move forward in society. And then when you hear that that is being undermined and shaken and now is no longer the case, you realize that these battles are never won, that we have to be constantly vigilant. And so even when it was just toppling, it wasn't going like it wasn't what has happened now.
Right.
That's when I got got Chloe Whitehorn on the phone, because she's a Kingston playwright, but who has recently just moved back from Georgia. So she has firsthand experience of that places in the United States where church and state don't seem to be separated. So she has a really interesting perspective and can understand that voice better than I think most of us could. So it's a really interesting play in that respect.
Yeah. Now, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is, and that does feature in the play, because the play is set in the United States.
Yes.
The main character is married to a politician, not to give too much away. But before we get into it, So the play is called Blood River
Mm-hmm.
right now, and it's at the
the
BB
Beaver.
Grand. Right.
Yeah, it plays until the 12th of November. So you have to get in there right now. And actually, right now, after I finish this podcast, I'm going to be calling the Grand Theater. And we have a special so that if you put in the keyword play, you're going to be able to bring a friend with you. So when you buy a ticket, it'll be an admit 2 ticket instead of just admit 1.
Nice.
Drag
So
your
2 for 1.
friends,
2 for.
you get a 2 for, yes. So if you can drag your friends, either you want to encourage them to come see theater, or this is an issue you guys need to go in and talk about. So drag people you need to, and for Tuesday and Wednesday, that's tomorrow and the next day, it'll be a 2 for 1.
Yeah.
We'll build a house. Now, saying that, it's a small house, so that means
Yes.
only 25 people can buy tickets. but like, so get on it as fast as you can, because there's only 50 tickets available at that price.
Yeah.
There's only 100 people that can see those 2 days. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's great. It's a wonderful, intimate space, and it's normally when you watch theater, you're watching from the front, but
Mhm.
this is not staged that way. So
No.
it's a nice experience.
Yeah, I staged it alley staging because I wanted the feeling that you were on the riverbanks and that the river was going by you. So there's that.
Yeah.
Like, it was very funny because Chloe, when I got her to write it, I said I need it to be simple, like one set, that sort of thing. She's like, okay, so I've got you a really simple idea. Here's the set. And I'm like, this isn't simple. It's an entirely different element. Like, you know,
Yes.
like you have a boat, but you can't really row onto the ground. I'm like, Chloe, we don't have billions of, we're not the Mervishes. We can't like make our like thing. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not simple. Anyway, but we did
But
it.
you did
So,
it. Like
yeah,
there
doesn't
was
it look good?
with sound and light
With
and
sound and light, and we decided to make it more of a pontoon so that it could have, because I just thought the rowboat would just make it look ridiculous. So
yeah.
Mhm.
But like I
It
said,
works.
there's lots of tiny little decisions that sometimes like you won't know. But if it was another decision, like if in that space had somebody like, you know,
I would
it would just so take you out of the moment,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah. And now I almost want to see that.
Yeah, you should see it again. Exactly.
The comedy version.
exactly.
Okay. What was it? I know that you know you thought the issue was one, but
Mhm.
where does the idea come from that? And then saying, "Hey, not only am I not going to just look for a play, I'm actually going to commission." Because this is
Yeah.
commissioning a play is different
Yes.
than just like going through our whatever plays and finding one on the topic.
No, absolutely. Well, part of Theatre Kingston's mandate is to get Kingston artists working as much as possible.
Okay.
So, and we have in Kingston, we have a really powerful group of artists, but it's very specific people that are like, can bring who you want to do the shows here. So I wanted something that really catered to getting some of our female actors working, because like there are a lot of really good plays that don't necessarily have good parts for women in them, and getting them to say meaty things and interesting things. And about this topic is often approached from a courtroom
Right.
way, and so when you look at trying to find plays that might have to deal with this topic, they're usually courtroom dramas or things like that. And I felt that this topic is so much more personal, and that Chloe could really bring a human connection to it. So I was mostly inspired just to get Chloe Whitehorn, who's a brilliant writer, to write something brilliant, so that we could get some of our local brilliant actors to do the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of seeing it yesterday.
Yay.
Because I could have done this interview later in the week, but I wanted to give maximum time for people to get tickets if they saw it.
Yes, thank you.
And Tuesday and Wednesday were going to be completely out for me, so I wouldn't have been able to get there till Thursday, and I thought that would leave just 2
that'll be
days.
too.
So, but when you were talking about it, it sounded so interesting. So I like literally moved things around yesterday so
Thank
I
you.
could go see it.
Everybody should. It's an important show.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing. And I'm kind of like all over the place because I'm actually really, really excited about it. It's a great play. And the acting is very good. Like you said, Chloe has a great script. Um, the thing with the script is that I was listening to it, the
Mhm.
play, and at the end of the first act, when we
Mhm.
finally get to take a breath,
Yeah.
because, oh my,
Some people have told me to go all the way through, and I'm like, no, you need to let people have a moment to
Decompress.
process.
well, I
Yeah.
mean, if it went all the way through, there'd be almost like a full white knuckle
Yeah,
period,
that's what I thought.
right? So
Yeah.
this one allows the, and then you come back. But yeah, having the white knuckle experience, I can understand why some people might want that to go through that.
I
I
believe
I could see that,
theater
but
I believe that theater's about, educating and starting conversations.
right,
I don't think it should traumatize you.
right,
Like,
Right.
because
right.
I think it's actually like when it comes to trigger warnings and things like that, I don't really like them because I do think that our industry has this beautiful place where, because it is pretend, it is a safe place to go through these difficult emotions.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we're all pretending. You
Right.
know, like when you stab someone in the theater, no one's actually getting stabbed.
Right.
When you yell at someone's yelling at someone in the theater, no one's actually hating each other in real life. You know,
Right.
like it's
Mhm.
unless the actors don't like each other, but that's beside the point. Anyway, but I'm just saying, like, it's a play. We're playing. I
Right.
like to say it's a play, not a brain surgery, you know? Like,
Right. Right. Right.
but it's a beautiful thing that we get to have a shared experience, meaning that you can I like I like intermissions because you can talk to your fellow audience members and
Right.
say, like, "Oh, what do you think?" or "What's going on here?" or, you know, like, you can have that kind of group experience where you can
Right.
depend on each other for the emotional support you need, or
Exactly. And
just
then,
to laugh
right.
sometimes.
And then you go back in
Yeah,
with that group feeling for what's to come,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
Like you're
yeah.
all invested in it. I really thought it was going one place.
Yes.
I really,
And it
really
took a left
thought that
turn.
Yeah.
I really thought that what we were going to find out in the second half was horrible,
Yes.
but of one kind. And it turns
Yes.
out to be another thing because
Horrible of a different kind.
different kind, of a totally different kind, but
Yeah.
equally horrible.
Yeah.
Or pretty darn near close. It's
Yeah.
just really bad. And the thing is that
Yeah, there is a bit of a bait and switch there.
there's a bait and switch, and then it's only in the second act that you figure out that the concept of time
Yeah.
has been played with in telling the story.
Yeah.
Like this. Sort of like, remember when you see the movies The Sixth Sense and you think everything's
Mhm.
happening and then there's that little thing that goes click and it's like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's that way.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
there's that in this. That's what just like,
And directing it was really, really tricky and interesting because we had to, in directing it, play that fine line that either truth could be the truth, right? Like, so we had to really go, okay, if you play it that way, you're definitely signaling this.
right,
If you play it this other way, then you're signaling both.
right,
Signaling the both is the magic in this play,
right,
so that it gives you more more intrigue, you know, kind of, you're like, what
Mhm.
that why did she answer that way to that line? And it kind of goes in the back of your head, and then once the play's over, you go, oh, that's why she said that instead of what would have been the obvious thing to
right.
say.
Because
Oh,
and also that's why she
oh,
was always going to that place.
exactly.
It's
Right?
like,
Oh,
that's why that place is important. It's just
exactly.
like,
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, yeah.
I'm completely in the dark here, but
exactly. So you'll
Well,
have
the thing is, I don't want to give away, but
Yeah.
no, I
but I
understand.
want
I
to, like,
wish
want to
I wish
know.
I was I wish I was able to come down to see the play, but it's just impossible for me right now with my schedule. Because I'm in Ottawa, right?
Oh,
I'm
you're in Ottawa.
so
Do you want me to come visit?
yes.
I have friends in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Come and visit.
Drive
No,
up,
but
Nope.
hey, that's what I'm hoping. Like,
drive down.
you know, other theater companies, if you're watching, because you
It's-
know
yeah.
I do theater and I love theater, so I know some of you are watching. Like, this is if you
Yeah.
want to bring a play, this is one to bring.
It's really good
It's
play.
really good. Okay, the actresses. This is the other thing that's interesting. There are no men in this play.
Do we still say actress?
I like the word
Actor,
actress. People say actors, but
Okay.
I don't. I like the word actress, but
Okay.
that's-
I'm just curious because everybody feels differently
Yeah,
about
we
it.
can say
Myself,
actress.
I'm just
if you want.
my take on it is just tell me what you want me to call you.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
Yeah.
I don't want to harm anybody.
Exactly.
Okay, this
So-
is a story that's told. Men are referred to,
Yes.
one man in particular, but there are no men in the story,
None.
and you still feel the menacing presence.
Yeah. I know. It's
Really
wild.
interesting.
isn't it? You kind of wait. You're kind of wondering if he's ever going to show up, and I'm really glad that he doesn't. But
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, Kay Vukovic and Shannon Donnelly and Bria Picard, they all came out. They all auditioned. That's how I got them, from the auditions.
Yep.
And they were fantastic. Like, and it's really like each of them would say that the rehearsal process was like a master class, because I pushed really hard to get the truth. As a director and an actor, I kind of have these two buzzwords. Basically, it's veritas and generosity.
Mhm.
And all I ask from my actors is that they're always telling the truth. They're always like, "That's all you ask?" And I would stop and I'd be like, "Okay, I can see you just saying your line. Now you need to believe it. Now
Mhm.
say it to me like you believe what you're saying, and this is your lived experience." And so I really made them go to those places of actually making every single word that came out of their mouth be a word that came out of their mouth.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is generosity. So when you're speaking with another actor, that the two actors are actually being affected and communicating with each other, as opposed to just being in a bubble monologuing at each other. I really wanted them to affect each other, to listen to each other, because we as an audience, we can see it. Like when I watch shows, I often will find myself falling asleep. Now, I know that's awful, but it's because I work really hard. But also, it's because if the actors aren't listening to each other, I stop listening to them.
Oh yes. Yeah. Yeah. No,
Right?
that makes perfect sense.
And that's when you're in a dark room and people aren't listening, you just kind of go, "Oh, $35 for a great nap. Lovely." Like, it'll happen at the best of times if the actors aren't listening to each other. If the
Mhm.
actors are actively engaged, then you as an audience member are actively engaged, and you will be there with them every moment of the way.
Right.
And so with this one, directing it, even, I never lost focus, even though I've seen the play now probably hundreds of times. I'm still always really listening to them because they're listening to each other.
Yeah, I like that you say that too, because it's in a play you can see energy,
Yeah.
right? So if the energy's meeting with the other one, like the energy's not entering each other's space, right?
Mhm.
Because if you're reacting to what I'm saying in the moment, what I have to say has to go into your energy space.
Exactly.
You have to take it, and then you have to throw
And it's
something
almost
back.
phenomenal, right?
Right.
So like Blood River, the name of the play, is like, it's a very it is that visceral, like you can smell it, you can feel it, you're a part of it.
Yeah.
It's very human, which is different than a film, right?
Yes.
Right.
Like,
And if you have that energy too, that's when that energy, when in between each other, then that's what brings the audience in, because it doesn't just stay there, it's in the room. And if you're the audience, you're in the room too. That's what pulls you in. It has
exactly.
to happen, especially in a play like this.
Well, it's the same as like with a dog. A dog can tell if someone's nervous. So if the
Mhm.
actor is creating all the hormones of being nervous, the whole audience will feel a little nervous. Like when an actor's playing "I'm in love," the audience will feel a little in love. You know, they'll get all those, like, that's why theater is lovely, because we're pouring out our pheromones. and this play is a lot of really heightened emotions, and so, like, on opening night, I was sitting beside the husband of one of the actresses or actors, and and my boyfriend, and I've seen the play a lot. They have
Mhm.
It was their first experience. I turn around and both of them are crying. It was like, and
Oh,
these are
wow.
like I don't cry about anything men, and they're like they're weeping, and it was so beautiful to see people affected by what's going on in the show. Yeah, it's really lovely.
That's amazing.
Mm.
Yeah, and when you cry at a play, it's like crying at a movie. It's fun in a weird way, you know? Like it's like you get to have this release. So you're having a weird week and get to see this play and you're like, "Oh, the play made me cry." But you get to play it, like, it's very cathartic, I think, and it's good. It's a way of releasing as opposed to putting more stuff on you. Like it's different.
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, with this play, um, what is I mean, other than just thinking about the issue, what is it what is it that you'd hope that the audience leaves with?
I'd like to think of Blood River as a cautionary tale, not just about abortion, but about the fact that at any time our government can take away our rights from us. So things that we think are a given are not a given, that we need to be constantly vigilant to be kind. We need to hold on to all the kindnesses that we have hard fought, the human
Mhm.
dignity that we have fought for, because at any moment there's a way you can find power by making an enemy of someone or make it belittling someone. If you make someone else smaller, you can make yourself larger. And I think there are certain people that use politics and they use the political tools of making somebody smaller to make somebody larger, like to make themselves larger, right? So, like, Donald Trump wants to use modern America as the evil, and he uses that to make him bigger, right? By saying we need to go back to 1950s. So
Mm.
he's saying everything that we've hard won during the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all of that needs to go away, and we need to be back into people are in their place so that he can be a more important human being. And we have to fight against that because it's very it's very attractive to, like, when you like, it's kind of like football, if you're rooting with a team, you really feel like you're part of something.
Right,
So if you have an enemy, humans like to rally around an enemy,
right.
but anybody can be the
Right.
enemy, including yourself. So don't just be selfish. You have to fight for everyone. It's like that poem, they came for the Jews and I said nothing. They came for the this, I said nothing. Then when they came for me, there was no one left to say anything. That
Right.
I'm not quoting it correctly, but that poem has always stuck to me. And I think this women's rights, especially abortion rights, are a really easy thing to say, oh, that's bad, because people like to go simple. You're killing babies. Like, no one likes to kill a baby. But in my head, if anybody who says you can't kill babies has an army, then they're a hypocrite because they're killing
Agreed.
grown up other people's children who are fully
Yeah.
grown up, right? Like, if you want to say we're pro-life, then we can never have an army. We can never, like, just don't kill anybody. If you're going to do that, take these women who have unwanted pregnancies, give them tons of money, love, and attention. Take that baby, nestle it in the bosom of society. If you're going to say that that's the truth, then everybody needs to be 100% taken care of. Then there needs to never be anyone forcing themselves on anyone else. There needs to never be poverty where you're so impoverished that you can't take 2 years off to nurture a small infant. Like,
Right.
we need a completely different society if we're going to do that, which we don't have. So you can't just say this is wrong, because pro-life is loving the human experience and condition, and we
Mhm.
need to we need to actually nurture people. And this is about making sure that people realize we have to be vigilant about being good to each other.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the other thing about abortion is when you make abortion illegal, you're just making safe abortion illegal.
Right. Because
You're not
it's going to happen.
Yeah, they're still going to happen because circumstances are such that sometimes that has to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Paul?
Sorry.
No.
Here you go.
Okay.
My happy thought for today. Anyway.
Well,
yeah.
Mr. Did you have any questions?
Well, it reminds me. There's a couple of comments I have. First off, what you're talking about reminds me of the George Carlin bit from '96 when he talked about how pro-lifers are not pro-life; they're pro-birth. Nothing more.
Yeah.
Because once you're born, you're on your own. No preschool, no health care, you're on your own. They're pro-birth, nothing more. If they were truly pro-life, if they were truly actually pro-life and Christian as they like to say they are, then they would help build programs to take care of those children to at least the age of 18, at the very least, to make sure they're fed, they're educated, they're healthy, they're clothed, they have shelter. But no, we see children on the streets. They have no health care because, it's America. And we can't let that happen here because it will happen here if we are not ever vigilant.
We need to be.
It will.
What amazes me is when you see two bumper stickers next to each other. The pro-life bumper sticker next to the celebrate our troops. I'm like,
Well, I had a discussion with a woman from Texas about a year or two ago who was going on, you're killing a baby, you're this and that. I go, I'm not killing anybody to begin with, number one.
Yeah.
I'm not killing anybody. I can't get pregnant. So I'm not killing anybody. So let's get the verbiage correct, number one. Number two, you're God's guns and Jesus, right? God, gun, and Jesus or something like that. And she says, yeah. I said, so Second Amendment is sacrosanct? Oh, yes, absolutely. Totally believe in the Second Amendment. I own lots of guns.
Yeah.
And you're pro-life.
There you go.
Well, I need it for protection. From who?
Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe move to a better neighborhood. My God, man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But the other thing I wanted to comment on, I just want to back it up a bit, that you were talking about how you want to let the play just be the play and you don't want to give the trigger warnings. And I actually agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree with you on that. However, I have noticed that there are individuals in my life who definitely need the trigger warning. They absolutely do.
You should do
because
that. Because
otherwise I see them.
Right? You have to
agreed.
Advertising, right? Like I called this show, well, Chloe, actually, we were discussing what to call it. And I was like, well, how about something about a river? Is there a name of a river that would work? And she started Googling rivers in the South, and there is one called Blood River. Mm-hmm. Right? So, but I think when you name something Blood River, it's not like Pongo and the giant egg, like you kind of, I think part of the advertising, like the advertising of this play is like this kind of ghostly figure on a boat, and it's called Blood River. It's like, yes, Blood River. It's like, it's got this sense of foreboding to it. So you're not going to, and everything that I've said in the advertising is that it's inspired by Roe versus Wade and things like that. So I don't hide what the play's about.
Right.
And I don't think when you're sitting in the audience and you open up the program and it has a trigger warning, I don't think half the people get up and leave.
No.
In fact, I don't think anyone does. Like, as I think you have a certain responsibility as an audience member to know what type of plays you want to go and see.
Oh, no argument. And again, I completely agree with you. I really do. It's just recently I've discovered individuals in my life who will be watching a film or a documentary or something, and they don't get the trigger warning, and literally you can see the switch in their face. The trauma is kicked in. So it's like, right. but what you're saying, I also agree with. It's like, well, this is what the play is about.
No, I'd be interested to ask your friends who do that if after the trauma of watching the play, if later, like a couple of weeks later, if they're if where they're at is actually a better place.
That's a good question. Yeah.
Because like I found, like I had a lot of PTSD about police officers. I won't go into why, but I did.
Okay, fair enough.
Then I moved to Russell Street in Kingston. If you know it, it's a notoriously bad street, so to speak. As a result, police officers are like, there's cop cars going up and down the street constantly. I no longer have PTSD about police cars. I used to. I used to, if I saw a policeman, I had to cross the street and go somewhere else. Now I can say hi, like I have no problem, because safe exposure allowed me to go through that. And I think theater is a safe exposure place. It's a place where you can have these feelings and think about them, but it's not a direct attack upon you. So
well, and again, with theater, it's not real.
No, it's a play.
It's a work of fiction. It's a play. It's not reality. Yeah. So that's why I'm personally able to watch any sort of traumatic film, play, and it does not affect me emotionally in any way, shape, or form. Well, emotionally, it doesn't trigger anything, is what I should say. Yeah. Like there's no PTSD there that will ever affect me because of the fact that I go, well, it's fiction. I may connect with me emotionally. I may cry. I may get enraged, but
I think of it more as a therapy session. Really.
Yes.
And
that's me.
I think of it more as therapy, going to theater, and I think seeing these difficult topics is important because it lets you experience and think about the issues. And one of the things about Blood River, which is playing now at the Baby Grant until the 12th, just thought we'd get it in there for you. I think one of the great things about this play is it says both sides of the issue. It's not sitting there like vouching just one opinion at you.
Right.
Like it's not propaganda. It's a play meant to inspire discussion and meant to have people actually think about this topic in a real, visceral kind of way.
And that has to be an interplay like this, or else where's the conflict if you don't have two people that have the different side of the right?
Do you feel like that, as an audience member, do you feel that it was fair-minded? Like, I mean, we obviously have a bias, but
it is. I believe that the characters sincerely believe their positions, but given the twist,
right
at the end, like this, I'm thinking that the story overall can't help make you feel that. I mean, it's a horrible thing.
Yes.
It's kind of hard at the end to say, oh, gee, that kind of balances because the thing is just so horrible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
But up until that point,
yeah,
you're right there. It was like this. And you don't have to leave. Actually, the thing is that you don't have to leave that play if you are, if you don't support the right to abortion and you see this play, you don't have to leave that play thinking that you got a lesson or something. No. Because the thing that is done is so terrible on its own, independently of the issue.
Yes.
Like this, you can still say, okay, my mind isn't changed on pro-life, pro-choice, but this is not how you handle it.
Yeah.
Is pretty much how everybody can agree.
Yeah.
So you don't have to leave. It's like you leave there. It's a strong emotion, but it is careful at the same time. You can leave and saying, you know what, I still believe what I believe, but not to that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So so it's fair in that sense, right?
I have two quick things.
The hit is really hard.
Yeah.
Two quick things. This comment from Cassie.
Yeah.
This comment from Cassie. After the UCP convention in Alberta this weekend and Take Back Alberta, it's starting to look like the foundations for Gilead. And I'm not going to argue because I saw some of the video from that and it's like, holy shit. Well, let me show you a 28-second video clip. I'm I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to show you the clip. There's no trigger warnings necessary. Okay, I'll show you the clip and then we'll discuss it. And it's one of those things. If you think it can't happen here, watch this.
Absolutely true. Iran was one of the most, in the 70s, was one of the most egalitarian nations on earth. It had the best
Oh, yes.
women's rights ever, and or very high anyway. Yeah, things can be taken away, and it's this slippery slope. So I think that abortion rights are actually more of a canary in the coal mine. You know, like as soon as that starts going, then we have to start worrying, because like it's not far from that the Jim Crow's laws get put back in, that like all the segregation that we, apartheid starts to happen. It's this slippery slope of human rights, where women are at this very delicate place. I think it's also that when a woman is pregnant and she doesn't want to be, or she does want to be, it's when a person is at their most vulnerable.
Yes.
Right? Like very, very vulnerable. And so that's why it's very, very easy to get in there and with a law destroy or change, like inflict your will on someone, right? Like, why is rape horrible? Because it's a person inflicting their will on someone else. And this is the same thing. It's just not sex, or I guess sex isn't rape, but you know what I mean? It's just not penetration, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
I want to thank Tavi G, by the way, for sending me that video clip.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow. Well, Kits and Cubs, if you have the opportunity to, if you're watching from Kingston or the general area and you have the chance to come in to go see Blood River, please do. It's on stage at the Baby Grand until the 12th. I believe the shows are at 7:30 in the evening, and Saturday and Sunday are matinees at 2:30.
As well, yeah.
Yes, as well as shows in the evening.
Yeah, come for the play and then play in the city. So travel to Kingston.
Yes. And from the kits who were listening here, we have a Kit Dan who says, I've never been to a play. I'll be honest, this title had me making a weird face, but after this person's explanations of the basis of the play, I'm intrigued. Bring it to Toronto.
Great.
So yeah, again, if you happen to be in the theater community and you can recommend the play somewhere or suggest that it should be brought, please do.
And if you're in Toronto, go see things at the Red Sandcastle Theatre. I founded that theater, and it's always cheap and cheerful, and it's a great place. If you've never seen a play, it's a really great way to get your toes wet, because the plays are always interesting, always passionate, and great fun. And then get on a bus and come down and see what Theatre Kingston's doing. Get on our website. On our website, you can get on the mailing list. So it's theatrekingston.com, and there's a little place where you can get on the mailing list. And I'm the person who sends out the mailing list, so don't feel inundated. It's me, and I'm overworked as it is. So I'll just tell you when it's important. Anyway.
We got folks asking for you to bring it to Ottawa and Toronto.
Oh,
so,
nice. Well, get me in touch with someone, and I would love to.
All right.
Okay. Well, there's quite a few theaters in Ottawa, so let's see if any theater people in Ottawa that want to try and bring a good show here.
It's all ready to
reach out. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Rosemary. Kits and Cubs, this was Rosemary Doyle. Please show your appreciation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming out,
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah, the stars were just aligned. Right? So I was like, why not? We have the platform, and it is a good play, and it is very, it's a meaty subject. So I thought it was great. I thought it was just a wonderful opportunity that we can make worlds collide.
No, absolutely cool. And it was like a bit of a surprise for me. But I'm like, cool. Yeah, I'm always happy to have a guest on,
Yeah.
especially one that's a guest that is contributing to the arts, number one, and number two is also making a statement at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, this is something that you and I have spoken about a number of times on how a woman's right to choose is, I mean, come on, forget it. It's important. It's a medical decision. First off, it's a medical choice. That is what is classified in this country. There are no laws around it. It is a medical procedure, nothing more. And you know how upset I got when the conservatives decided to put a law around protecting pregnant women. And I go, that is the backdoor method to put an end to a woman's right to make that medical choice.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that is.
Indeed.
It's a stealth method. They come in, they make little incremental changes because it's all about incrementalism.
Yep.
It took them 50 years to kill Roe v. Wade. We saw pictures of women in 1970 in Iran, right?
Yep.
It was an egalitarian society. Look at it today.
Yep.
50 years to end Roe v. Wade. How much longer to end women's right to exist as a person and not as property of a man or the state?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh. And people think I'm being ridiculous when I say these things. And I'm like, but look at it. The reason Margaret Atwood wrote the book, The Handmaid's Tale, it wasn't a work of fiction in the sense that, sure, it's not happened in North America yet, but it was happening around the world.
Mm-hmm.
She just looked at all these other places and how they changed and what had been taking place. She's like, this will happen here if we are not ever vigilant. That silent majority needs to stand the fuck up and speak out, because your rights will be taken from you too.
Oh, yeah.
It's only a matter of time before somebody gets into a position of power. I don't think it'll happen here in Canada because hopefully we have enough people going like, whoa, hang on a second here. But you have so many people in the United States of America that if you do not say, God bless the USA at the end of their political speech, people get up in arms. I'm like, well, that's what happened to this separation of church and state thing that was supposed to be so important? Most of the founding fathers were atheists. So like, what's going on here? They're trying to dial it back to a time that never really existed and create their own fake democratic society, except there'll be no democracy left. It will be a dictatorship and it will be a religious state, and it's creeping in ever more. And it scares the hell out of me.
Yep.
Because who's to decide, okay, so women can't have an abortion. And if you have an abortion, we're going to give you the death penalty. And we're going to put the doctor to death too. But I thought you were pro-life. You're killing two people now. Please explain that to me.
Yep. Now we're going.
Please explain that to me.
We're going way beyond a life for a life now.
Way beyond that. Now, and also consider the fact that, okay, so first they'll take that choice away from women, and they've done it in the U.S., not in every state, but in many, many states. And it's creeping incrementalism. How soon before they decide that, tattoos are bad. We don't want to see tattoos. Jewelry? No, you can't wear jewelry. No, earrings, rings. No, we don't want to see that either. Men, you are not allowed to shave anymore. Like, when will that happen? Like, when will those simple rights be taken away? And if you think it can't, look at the 28-second video clip I just showed you and what they did to women in those countries. They'll do it here if you give them the chance.
Yeah.
They will do it here.
Yep. Got some great.
Because it's all about control.
Now you're making me think of Janet Jackson. You can't do that.
Control.
You can't do that because it's all about control. And I got lots of it. Okay, we have some comments from the kits here. Kit Dan, I'll go watch it play before the end of the year, and we can do a segment. P.S. Men, we are here for support. Do it 110%. Yes. Kit Mystical, amazing how drama can teach so much.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
Oh, yes.
Kit Sussy, the reason why they think it's ridiculous is that most Canadians or Americans have never felt a drop of oppression in their lives. Indeed. And Kit Cassie, what a lovely lady for a Monday AM guest. Ah, I'm sure Rosemary will be delighted to hear that. Huh, great.
And what Cassie's saying is correct, because you look at the Republic of Mo, Saskatchewan, it is creeping in there.
Yeah.
He's using the notwithstanding clause to rob the rights of children.
Yep. And now he's unilaterally deciding which taxes he's collecting and not.
Yeah. Excuse me. But what? It's like, okay. Wow.
How are we doing for time, Mr. Grizzly?
I have to be in the office for 10, so I've got time.
Okay. I want to do one other thing then. It's got to be a completely different change of pace. But last week, in the midst of everything that was going on, points at everything. Here. Our minister, I'm going to say, everybody says foreign affairs. I'm going to say Minister of Global Affairs, because I think there's an effort to try and call this Global Affairs Canada, and I'm not sure if it's actually Minister of Global Affairs or Foreign Affairs, but I'm just going to go with Minister of Global Affairs here. Melanie Joly delivered an important speech to the Economic Club of Canada about, I don't want to say our new foreign policy, but our evolving
Okay.
foreign policy, where we're going to. And it was very good and contained lots of good statements. And you would think normally that would get some play, but just with Israel and inflation and climate and just this doesn't rate anymore for coverage. But there are issues, right? We have issues going on with India. We have issues going on with China. They have the whole election interference issue going on. And things, I think we could say, are changing pretty rapidly. So,
Oh, yes.
yeah. So, Mr. Grizzly, we'll start at 51 seconds. And before she gets into the foreign policy, she gives a status update of Canadians affected in Gaza with regard to, and just overall by the conflict that is going on over there.
Okay, just a second here. Let's run this clip.
Dive in. I know that all of us have been following very closely what's happening in the Middle East. We have seen horrific scenes of unspeakable violence as Hamas launched its terrorist attacks against the people of Israel, which Canada unequivocally condemns. What is unfolding in Gaza is also a human tragedy. The humanitarian situation facing the Palestinian people, facing Palestinian women and children in particular, is dire. And extremist settlers' attacks continue in the West Bank and must stop. Like all states, of course, Israel has a right to defend itself against terrorist attacks. It has an obligation to do so in accordance with international law. For even in crisis, there are principles, and even in war, there are rules. We must be guided by human dignity, and all civilians, Israeli and Palestinians, for they are equal, must be protected. At this point, Canada mourns 7 dead. We're still searching for 2 who could be held hostage. 400 Canadians are trapped in Gaza. They are living in fear and despair. And as a government, we have a duty to bring them to safety. And that is why we need humanitarian pauses, a humanitarian truce in Gaza. And I've been in contact with Israel, with Qatar, with Egypt, and the US nearly every single day for the past 3 weeks. At this point, we need an agreement from all parties to get our foreign nationals out, including Canadians. All hostages must be released, and it is important to allow food, fuel, and water in Gaza. And Canada will be reaching out to more countries to join in that call. I spent the better part of this last month in Israel, Jordan, Egypt, and the UAE, overseeing our efforts to help Canadians leave the region and working with our partners to address the impacts of this conflict while finding ways to de-escalate.
So that's the status of what's going on for Canada, specifically in the region. So just an update on that. Now we get into the meat of it, with what it is, how our policy is evolving. We'll go to 622, Mr. Grizzly. She is diagnosing the problem. And I like the way that she frames this. And it seems that she, at least in my opinion, for whatever knowledge of global affairs I have, so take it for what it's worth, it seems that she's diagnosing the problem rather correctly.
Okay.
All right.
Now, former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright once said that, contrary to what many people think, international relations is nothing like a game of chess where two people sit quietly, thinking out their strategy, taking time between moves. It is much more like a game of pool with a bunch of balls clustered together. Based on my experience over the past 2 years, I completely agree. And I would add that, while it has never been perfect, the game has been well served by a set of common rules, conceived from the ashes of the war to form the basis of global cooperation. Lines we would not cross to keep our citizens safe, built on the promise that through stability would grow prosperity. Today, this system is cracking, and the stakes of the game have increased. Our world is marked by geopolitical turbulence, unpredictability, and uncertainty. The tectonic plates of the world order are shifting beneath our feet, and the structures that are built upon them are fracturing. War has broken in Europe, in Africa, and in the Middle East, each bringing a new cycle of death and destruction. We find ourselves amidst an international security crisis. We're now facing increasing complex, modern challenges: climate change, artificial intelligence, political polarization, irregular migration, and deepened inequality. More than ever, our international institutions are being tested. The stability that has safeguarded us all is now being challenged by those who seek to change the rule of the game, undermined by those who believe they can break them without consequence. The current world order is also being questioned by people and nations, mainly from the South, who challenge whether the rules reflect their reality and benefit their people. Some have expressed concerns over double standards, or whether the current institutions and their decisions meet their needs or are fair. We see an increasing boldness from bad actors who believe they can tip the scales of power with the weight of their might. These countries and non-state actors seek to reshape the very rules that has kept us safe. And the tools they're using are not limited to the battlefield. Many actors now wield sophisticated and often covert tactics to shift the world order in their favor. And they're doing so at a time where global issues have local impact here at home. Crisis in the Middle East has sparked fear in our communities. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has cost thousands of lives and spiked the price of our gas and groceries. Climate change filled our summer skies with smoke, and rising global inflations make it feel increasingly hard to get by, let alone get ahead.
Huh?
That might be the next prime minister.
Huh? Huh?
Like, wow.
And that's what I'm saying. There's so much going on in the world that got put down to the C list.
Mhm.
That should be everywhere.
Yeah, agreed.
That should be. Go just a little further to 1038.
Hmm.
And this is where she says, so it's just a couple seconds later, right? She says a little thing in French, and then she says what the test is.
Okay.
Le monde est marqué par les turbulences géopolitiques, par l'imprévisibilité et par l'incertitude. Les plaques tectoniques de l'ordre mondial bougent sous nos pieds et les structures qui s'appuient sur elles sont en train de se fracturer. La stabilité qui nous a offert une certaine protection est aujourd'hui mise à l'épreuve par ceux qui cherchent à changer les règles du jeu. Un défi complexe, générationnel nous attend et c'est un test que nous ne pouvons pas échouer. Ahead of us lies a complex generational challenge, one that will shape the world we leave to our children and grandchildren. They will judge us based on the steps we take next, on how well we were able to prevent global conflict to build a world that is stable and inclusive, one that respects all states while recognizing their growing interdependence, and one where progress benefits all of society, not just a narrow few. Friends, this is a test we cannot fail. At this moment of global crisis and deep uncertainty, Canada can make significant contributions to meet this challenge. To do so, our foreign policy will be guided by two principles. First, defending our sovereignty. And second, using pragmatic diplomacy to engage countries of different perspectives in order to prevent an international conflict.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a future prime minister, I think. Huh?
This is good stuff.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
This is why I love politics. This is the stuff that makes me really, really happy.
I'll be right back. I desperately need a coffee. Sorry, I'll be right back.
Okay, yeah, no worries. So when I see it done like that, hold on a second. Bye, my love. I love that man. All right, next. So yes, our foreign policy is going to be guided by two principles. First, defending our sovereignty, and second, using pragmatic diplomacy to engage countries of different perspectives in order to prevent an international conflict. So she's diagnosing the problem. She's saying what the test is that we should meet, and then is saying that how our foreign policy is going to evolve in order to position us to meet that test. Now, of course, as Beau of the Fifth Column keeps reminding us, when it comes to foreign policy, right, it's about power. We're a soft power. And it's about not friends, even though we say allies, but about interests, right? Interests are shifting rather interestingly around the world at this moment. So she describes each one of these elements. Now, the first one, again, is first defending our sovereignty. So we're going to go to 1212, Mr. Grizzly, where she's talking about making Canadian sovereignty a bit more resistant to threats.
Canada's sovereignty must be resilient to threats of every nature, regardless of where they originate. Our location on the globe, surrounded by three oceans, can no longer be relied upon to protect us. The evolving threats we face are no longer just physical and economic. They're digital and they're informational. Our national security depends on a world order where the principles of sovereignty are respected, one where borders cannot be redrawn by force, one where threats to our people don't go unanswered, and one where trade and prosperity is ensured through sustainable peace and stability. Defending these rules is critical to defending our national interests. And so, we will strengthen the security of our territory, our economic interests, our democracy, and our culture. And we're working with our allies to bolster international security and, in turn, Canada's. Now more than ever, soft and hard power are important. We will increase our investments in our military through the Defense Policy Update, which the Minister of Defense, Bill Blair, is finalizing.
All right. And one thing I noticed is that we have the same thing with, you can tell how we're Francophone because I have trouble with saying economic as well.
Hmm.
I think I maybe even goofed it up when I said she was addressing the Economic Club of Canada. So I'm not the only one. Yay. She goes on to talk about how Canada is going to do this, focusing for strategies, directionally. So north, east, west, and south. I recommend if you kids are going to be listening to this, going to check it out, that you listen to that section. That's about 13:35 on the timestamp, but it goes on for about 5 minutes, so I won't play it here for you. But I will go to 1935, where she speaks specifically of foreign interference, given that we're going to have a public inquiry on that coming up soon. And this is still within the defending our sovereignty aspect of the evolving policy.
Say matters, and silence speaks even louder. We must be clear in denouncing those who seek to undermine our democracy, and in promoting the importance of the simplest and most powerful expression of it, which is a vote. We will protect our people from all forms of foreign interference. We will not tolerate it in our elections, in our media, or in our social media. Not among our students, not in our society. Foreign interference is not new. We're not the only country facing it, but it is evolving, and so must our approach. We have created independent panels to monitor elections and established a foreign interference public inquiry. We are establishing a foreign actor registry to protect communities that are often targeted. And as I've made myself very clear, any foreign diplomat who engages in this type of activity will be sent packing. Finally, essential to protecting the health of our democracy, we will continue to protect our cultural sovereignty and defend the integrity of our media.
I like that because, as you know, I've said time and time again, Chatham Asset Management needs to be booted.
Yes, and the integrity of our media part really made me happy.
Oh, yes.
All right. Next little bit. This is the second aspect where she's talking about pragmatic diplomacy and sort of like a vision for how she sees it.
Okay.
Pragmatic diplomacy. Our sovereignty survives best in a system based on clear and fair rules that foster predictability. And we'll continue to champion that system without ever compromising our values.
I don't think that was the whole clip.
That was the whole clip. That's the time frame you gave me. Oh, wait, no. I read it wrong. My apologies. You said 22:25. I read it as 21:25.
Yeah, I thought that was a little short.
Must be pragmatic. We must resist the temptation to divide the world into rigid ideological camps, for the world cannot be reduced to democracies versus autocracies, to the north versus the south, the east versus west. Forcing the majority of the world to fit into any one category would be naive, short-sighted, and counterproductive. Naive because the global south cannot afford to choose one camp over the other. short-sighted because the challenges we face will require all states, despite their differences, to cooperate and respect fundamental rules. And counterproductive because forcing states to choose one side over the other risks driving potential partners away.
Mm.
Mm.
If you give people only binary choices when
Yes.
they don't have the luxury of choosing one or the other, but they need both of you, that is a pretty important realization. So, which is kind of explains also why it is that the people that want the government of Canada to take a 100% pro, one side of this Hamas Israel thing, and
No, you can't.
not the Hamas part.
Mhm.
Everybody is clearly against Hamas,
Palestine and
right?
Israel. Yeah.
Right? Are never going to be satisfied, because if they do that, it's like that'll make the group here domestically happy. Yes, one group, but it will single a whole other one out. Totally.
Of course.
And you can't have that as your domestic policy, and you can't have that as your domestic. If that's your domestic policy, how does anybody consider you an honest broker on the global stage? As we said before, it's the whole reason why the prime minister and everybody's talking about humanitarian pauses rather than a ceasefire, because I mean, after everything that has happened since we were last on this show,
Hmm.
people are said like, now is it enough, Israel? And it's like, do not talk to us about a ceasefire. We are not open to it. If you don't have access, you don't have influence.
Well, they bombed how many universities over the course of the weekend?
Just, and the refugee camp and so, and again, it's not on that front. And I think this is like what the government of Canada is thinking. Like, we understand when somebody says, we want to wipe you off the face of the earth, that it's get them before they get you.
Hmm.
But is it necessary to take out 400 civilians in order to get one of them? Given all the technology and intelligence and the way that we have to micro-target, is that really the only way?
Well, this is just, and get mad at me if you want, but it's kind of genocidal, don't you think?
I'm not going to step out there, but we are not the only ones looking in.
Well, I say it's kind of genocidal. 400 people to get one. When they said we want to wipe them off the face of the earth, I forget which minister it was who said that. It's kind of like, isn't that what they're systemically doing right now?
But again, that's what I mean. It's
Nuance. I get it.
yeah. Like
It's
I
not
said,
black and white.
I understand get them before they get you,
Hmm.
but do you have to get everybody in the process? It just it just seems that it's, and we see it in what the United States is doing. Do not make the same mistakes we made after 9/11. Do not go in with hot heads. Take some time to breathe. We know that you are really angry and you don't only want
Hmm.
to send a message that there is an element of retribution. We get that. But look what happened to us. And there's a reason why Canada keeps on saying, like, this in accordance with humanity. People their own friends are worried.
Hmm.
They see how angry Netanyahu is specifically, and they know that in order to maintain his position of power in Israel, he's associated with people even more to the right and even more extreme than he is. So there is nobody in his alliance that is going to pull him back If anything, I'm going to push them to go further. There are members of this alliance that have been just waiting for something like this as a pretext to go and do. So, but if you say one all bad, Palestinians all bad, Israel all good,
No.
that's not going to work. If you're going to say, India all good and everybody in Punjab all bad, that's not going to work. If you're going to say, as all bad as Russia is,
Yeah.
because as all bad as Russia is, we are still maintaining some type of doors open to try that maybe this time some appeal to reason will happen or something will have changed. So we haven't closed that door. So, but I mean, there's nobody making any room there for Russia. There are times where you do have to take the firm stand, and then there are times you have to leave that door open.
Yes.
So it's a mature foreign policy. It's looking at the world, dealing with the world as it is and not how we think it should be or wish it should be or would be, but as it is. It's kind of a big thing. Mr. Grizzly, if we can go to 2250, Minister Jolie goes into the reasons for her why it is that it is important that we retain this engagement, even with nations that are doing things that we really not are okay with.
Okay.
I'm inspired by the diplomacy of our past, pragmatic diplomacy of our past. While I was in North Macedonia just last August, I was struck by a statue of former Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau in the halls of the Foreign Ministry in Skopje, marking the time he invested as a Western leader to engage with non-aligned countries. At a time of great divide between the West and the Soviet Union, Trudeau was determined to connect with countries that did not see themselves, their values or needs reflected in the state of play. And throughout that time of tension, Canada was seen as a credible partner to engage countries in peace and stability. To me, that's pragmatic diplomacy, keeping allies close while also being open to different perspectives as we encourage others to take a chance on peace. We will always defend our national interests. We will always defend our values. But we cannot afford to close ourselves off from those with whom we do not agree. For engagement does not mean that we support or condone the policies and actions of others. We're not naive about what engagement will accomplish. But if we refuse to engage, we create additional incentives for those whose actions we strongly oppose to join together. As respect for the rules diminishes, empty chairs serves no one. Let me be clear. I'm a door opener. I'm not a door closer. Therefore, with rare exceptions, Canada will engage. With the world's security at stake, our security at stake, we cannot just rely on our old friends. We will double down on forward-leaning engagement. And we will need to extend our hand to new partners amongst a broad coalition of states from around the world. We need to demand that every country respects the sovereignty and territorial integrity of others. This is a defining principle of the UN Charter. Canada will work to promote agreement on these basic principles. Because if we succeed in promoting agreement on the basic rules amongst a larger group of states, every state and every region of the world will benefit. How do we propose to do this?
Just really, really solid stuff. But that's why when people are saying, like, cut the ties off, shut the embassy, walk away, turn your back on them, this is why we don't. It's always better to be in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Always better to be in the game. Okay. The next clip is she is talking about our diplomats and how we are going to use our diplomatic service in order to help in that.
Ensuring that Canadian diplomacy is fit for purpose in this 21st century is fundamental to our success. Diplomats are on the front lines of our work around the world. There are ears and eyes on the ground. Their work is one key to our collective peace and security. And the power of our embassies lies in our ability to advance common objectives. That is why we're increasing our diplomatic footprint with 6 new embassies along Europe's eastern flank, in Armenia, in Rwanda, and in Fiji for the Pacific Islands. And that is also why we appointed a new ambassador to the African Union and reappointed an ambassador to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Okay. So we're opening up more embassies rather than closing them.
Mm-hmm.
The one in Armenia just opened up, which is
Mm-hmm.
comes at a very good time given what just happened with Armenia.
Indeed.
People being, sort of sent away from the Nagorno-Karabakh region. Now the government of Armenia says that, oh, no, you can come back now.
Mm-hmm.
We intend to be a country that respects those rights, but I'm not sure how many have come back. I haven't heard.
I don't know.
Yeah, but we're expanding our diplomatic corps, and by naming someone to the African Union. As remember, we just reported that the African Union has just been granted status at the G20 alongside the EU. So that's a very important move that to meet up
So.
with changing things. We only have a couple of more clips here. We're going to do...
Yes.
Sorry. No.
Yeah. Like you were mildly distracted for a second.
Yeah.
I'm the one who see the squirrels all the time.
Yeah.
You just lost your place, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's all it is.
I was going to go like we're going to show the one with... No, we just played that one, didn't we?
It happens. We're only human. We're bound to make our share of mistakes.
Well, at least it's not so bad as having declared someone dead.
Yeah, that's
Gee, that was a mind fart.
That's a bit of a... I'm like, what did you just do? I was kind of like, I'm not sure if I understand what you're talking about.
I listened to it and I thought, okay, is it because I saw Perry in my notes? And I thought, but is Percy Perry? And I'm thinking, but no, I've listened to it again. It's like I'm clearly talking about Percy right from the get-go. It's just like, ugh. Some days, man. Now, Kit, I believe it was Kit Linda who made a comment in the chat about if you think that that's good, wait till you see her speak off the cuff or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're about to see that.
Yeah, there was a short time for a short question and answer period after, because everything's going boom in the world. So, and a minister's most valuable asset is their time. So there wasn't time for a 20-minute Q&A, but there was a short one. And we'll take 2 questions from there. And this is the first one.
Okay.
For our period. Minister, this is an economic audience, so obviously my first question is going to be one of an economic nature.
Yeah, of course.
Based on your speech, what should this audience take away from your speech in terms of how do they navigate the world as it's becoming?
Well, I understand where you come from. Why? Because I used to be in business before being in politics. And one of the key things that you do when you're in business is you try to mitigate risks. And so the issue right now is how do you do so? Because when you look back, in 2008, following the economic crisis, the world came together. Now, following COVID, this is not what's happening. You're seeing that there's more tensions, more fractures, and at the same time, You see it in even the resiliency of our different supply chains. So when you go abroad, please work with our diplomats, talk to our trade commissioner, talk to our ambassadors, because they will help you understand the country in which you're doing business, but also they can provide you with important networks. And trust me, the politics in different countries is shifting very quickly. So that is why it's really important that you be able to connect with them. And also we're opening new embassies, as I mentioned, so that's also helpful. And meanwhile, we'll continue to invest in trade and making sure that we have rules that are, the rules that are keeping us safe, really respected around the world.
Right. And I think Kit Tabby G nailed it when she said, only when you really know what you're talking about can you respond this well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And then the last little clip I want to show is the host asked her what surprised her most about being in the job, because we haven't had the Minister of Global Affairs is one that has been rotating a lot in the cabinet shuffles with this government. And well, Jolie happens to have been there for 2 years now. She's actually the longest serving one in the last 8 years. So the constant presence. So let's see what she has to say.
This was one that I thought would be really interesting. You've been in post for 2 years. I don't think any one of us could ever imagine, including yourself, that you would have had the run that you've had. What has surprised you the most in this role?
I remember saying to Anita and Anne about Ukraine, who just had been appointed. She was at defense, foreign affairs. And I said, this will be our first crisis. We have to be ready. We'll be tested. And it was. 3 months later, the Ukraine war started and Russia invaded Ukraine. I never thought, though, that there would be so many crises at the same time. And at this point, we've done 3 evacuations. We've evacuated Canadians from Ukraine, from Sudan, and from Tel Aviv, the West Bank. And we're working on Gaza right now, and we are also working on Lebanon. And I had to shelter 2 times in bomb shelters while going to Ukraine, and recently in Tel Aviv while Hamas was launching rockets on Israel. And so I never thought I would, well, I think nothing prepares you to also have so many difficult conversations. I've met with families of people who lost their lives in the Hamas attacks. I met with members that thought that their child was potentially a hostage and was confirmed to be dead. I spoke yesterday with a Canadian that is stuck with his family in Gaza because he had gone to see his mom who was sick, and he was there on October 7th when Hamas launched attacks. This is the type of conversation that I never thought I would be having.
I could.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a real person.
A real person. A real person. A real person who is expressing to you her actual feelings and emotions in a very, what's the word I'm looking for here, transparent way, talking about something that's not an easy subject to discuss. When we read about it online, we're reading about it. She actually was talking with people on the ground in that situation and what they were going through, which really drives it home in a different way, because we're thousands of miles away over here, completely insulated, sitting in my my white privilege bubble, and this incredibly articulate, intelligent, talented woman is dealing with it directly. And you could see the emotional change as she began to talk about it. Like she's feeling it.
Right.
And who's been in her post for that length of time ever with any government is what I'm questioning. I don't know if
Don't
anybody's
like
been
was
it for
there for a while, but that's the last one I remember. I think that was global affairs for a while.
Mhm.
Because I mean, if he got the Ottawa Treaty on landmines, and to get a treaty from beginning to end, you have to have been somewhere for a while. So
Well, yes, yes. I'm just thinking it's what she's gone through in her 2 years at that post, though.
she's gone through like 7 years of stuff in two.
Yes.
Like
And I
serious.
chuckle when I say it, but it's like it's really been compressed and condensed into a tight time frame, right? In 2 years, look at all that's happened. You know, it
It's the
was
most screwed
before
up
she
time.
had this. You know, how many wars is she dealing with right now? It's like, oh man,
Listen, she said evacuations. She forgot one. She forgot Afghanistan.
yeah.
Okay,
You know,
and
that's how much she's had to deal with, right?
Lebanon, the one that might be coming, might be the biggest evacuation ever.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, they've been telling people, like, if you have a chance, go now, because if it happens, I think there's like up to like I can't even remember the number. So for some reason, I have 400,000 in my head, but I don't know if it's that much. 140,000, probably more, something like that. But we're talking at least 6 digits. Would be the
Oh, yes.
biggest evacuation of Canadians if people stayed, didn't leave beforehand, and they're preparing for that because you never know. So it's yeah, it's a big thing. So yeah, kids, I just wanted to bring that to you because yeah, I also saw some comments like, please more Melanie in this type of thing rather than like Mo and Higgs talking about like we have to fight the carbon tax or oppress trans kids or stuff. That's what I'm saying. There are good people doing good things, and it's just not getting the profile because they're gonna let us all freeze in the dark. Provinces are fighting with the feds. Like this gets the clicks and gets the airtime. But again, in the background, quietly, slowly, there's a very competent and professional team seeming to being able to take care of the stuff that goes bump in the night and can scare us.
Well, surround yourself with brilliant people, and you can do brilliant things. And that's. I remember
You don't
when.
have to be the minister of everything if you surround yourself with competent people.
Well, that was the thing. Is the amount of people that came out. What's with Trudeau just trying to get the women's vote by having a 50-50 gender parity thing? And I'm like, hello, Anand, Jolie, Freeland, brilliant, intelligent, educated, highly successful women who have sacrificed quite literally some of the best years of their lives for the betterment of this nation, for you and I and everyone watching and listening here.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to agree with their politics. You don't have to be a member of their party, but you do have to show the respect for who this woman is, how this woman carries herself, and how she does her job. I mean, she's brilliant, brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
We need more of her.
Yep.
More of her. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
here, bang the tables like this. But Sean Fraser's the same thing. If you're hearing them talk Karina Gould, if you're hearing them talk Seamus O'Regan, if you're hearing them talk,
Yes.
there's a compared to what we're getting on the other side, right? I know people are kicking the tires. I know people are thinking maybe time for a change, but we're always change to what? Change what? What's the opposite?
Let's not go backwards, folks. Let's not go backwards.
Change.
And I get,
change is mindless. Change to what?
Well, so many people are talking about how it's time for Trudeau to step down. I'm like, it's you know what? If he steps down prior to the next election, that's 2 years from now. He still has things he wants to accomplish in that time frame. And I get a kick out of how all of the newspapers in the country that are asking him to step down are owned by a foreign entity.
It's
Why would they do that?
It's almost as if they would rather PP face someone else because they know that the prime minister seems to have a way on the campaign trail, even if he was down before, because he has been down before. to make it up. They know that he's a good campaigner. He knows that
Well,
in
his
the
numbers were.
interpersonal skills game, he wins.
Mhm. Well, and let's look at each election cycle in the last. He's been reelected twice, elected, reelected twice,
Mhm.
and each time in the polls, the Conservatives were leading.
Mhm.
All three elections.
Mhm.
All three elections, they were leading.
Yep.
They first won with a majority, then a minority, then a minority, but they won.
Right.
And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a large part of it has to do with young people who are able to vote for the first time, and women who are getting engaged because they're like, this alternative is not working for me. I'm like, and no, it isn't.
No.
It will not work for your benefit. Now, there's millions of other people who are just, oh, I hate that son of a bitch. I'm like, yeah, go ahead, hate him all you want. It's fine. You can personally hate him, although you've never personally met him or actually sat down and spoken with the man. But go ahead and hate him because the guy that you're cheering for has given you a reason to do so. But you need to realize one person is trying to govern, the other person is trying to rule. Which one do you want?
Right.
Because I don't want to be ruled. I like to have somebody who's willing to govern. Because they know they have to answer to me. Whereas a ruler answers to no one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big difference there. So ladies, gentlemen, they, them, whoever you are in this country, get engaged and make sure in 2 years from now, because it was 2015, right around yesterday, I believe, when they were sworn in. The cabinet was sworn in for the very first time. So 2 years from now, when you are at the ballot box, vote whomever you choose for. Vote with your conscience and vote for someone who will make the lives of your friends, family, neighbors, loved ones better. Not take things away from people. Don't take things away from people. Give. We have it in us to give. Let's do it. It's not difficult to be kind. It's not difficult to be nice. It's not difficult to share your abundance with others. So let's vote in a government who wants to do that.
Right.
And and again, I'm not saying which party to vote for. And yes, there's corruption at all levels. You have to accept that. And sure, there's going to be corporate overlords that are going to, have power and sway over those politicians. That is a given. Accept that. I don't like it, but it's a fact. But which party wants to make your life better? Which party wants to take away your rights, your choices? Which party is doing it right now in certain provinces in this country? So ask yourself that question in 2 years from now. And if there's a provincial election coming up, remember to ask yourself that question again. What is going to benefit your friends, family, loved ones, your community, your neighborhood, all the things that matter to you in life? Which party is going to do that? And then vote for them.
Right. Right. You're exactly it. And we're seeing this, for example, like in the province of Quebec. We're in Canada, when the provincial governments start to shift, often the federal government shifts. Like if you
Mhm.
remember, when Prime Minister Trudeau became prime minister, most of the provinces were led by progressive leaders. And then eventually that started to change.
Mhm.
Now we've had some conservative leaders, right? Alberta was up in question until, let's face it, Rachel Notley blew it. And Manitoba is switched. In New
Boys.
Brunswick, Blaine Higgs was looking at toying at the idea with an early election, but polls
Mhm.
said 38-38. So they had a confidence vote, and he survived it. And in Quebec, we've been watching François Legault panic, flipping himself on the third link, and now trying this, going after Anglophone universities, and kept on saying, "Well, why is he doing that? He's up like 10 to 11% in the polls." Well, it turns out he had internal numbers that were saying something different, because it just came out 4 days ago that, based on a poll taken on the 25th of September, that the CAQ has 30%. The Parti Québécois at 26%. The Liberals are at 15%, Quebec Solidaire at 15%, and the Quebec Conservative Party at 12%. So the party's lead has dropped to 4, and he's in minority territory.
Mhm.
That's what I'm saying. Always look for new behavior, kids.
Yes.
Sometimes the numbers follow because they get the internal polling numbers before.
Yeah, well, and remember one other thing. I went on a bit of a diatribe about voting and the importance of making an informed decision and trying to vote for the betterment of your community, your friendly loved ones, neighbors, coworkers, et cetera, et cetera. You also need to do that at the municipal level because that's the most important one. And you do need to remember that is where they're sneaking in the back door.
Right.
You've got right-wing evangelical, and I'm going to say this word in quotations, Christians, because there's nothing a Christian about the way they behave.
Right.
Nothing about the word of Jesus Christ is related to their behavior in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
I know, went to Catholic school. I
Right.
read the Bible. I'm
Right.
not an idiot. I'm not a religious person, but I also know
You know what the book
there's
says.
well, yeah, red letter Christians will talk about this is what Jesus said.
Right.
So why are you warping it and doing your own damn thing? Anyway, you've got these right-wing evangelical, in quotation marks, Christians who are invading our municipal invading. No, they have the right. They do have the right to run for office. They have the right. It's Canada. You have the right to do that. But what they're doing is getting in at the municipal level, starting with the school boards, working their way up, taking away the rights of your children first. They start there. Let's float that out. We're here to protect the children. No, you're stripping the rights of the children, which, homeboy here, I ain't down with that. So remember, when you're voting, vote in every election, because if you don't, we have committed people who are committed to taking away your rights and will do so incrementally.
Yep.
And they're doing it.
Yep.
As we've seen in the chat, the documentary film The Family on Netflix. Watch that.
Yeah. So
Watch
as I was
that.
mentioning, So as mentioned, the tide is starting to turn in the provinces, right? Quebec, there's a strike starting.
Yeah.
Today. Small little rotating strikes, but it seems to be as close to the startings of a general strike.
420,000 people.
Yeah.
420.
The government, apparently the government offered them a certain amount that they consider to be like not even up with inflation, but they're saying yes, but if you add the bonuses, it's actually like 2% over inflation. But like the province, the employees want like 20% over 3 years, and I think they've offered them 12 over 5. So they are far apart. The TV Ontario strike, Ontario, that finally closed, but I think it was like
Oh,
an
it did?
11-week strike or something.
11 or 12 weeks, yeah.
For 7.7%.
Wow. Well,
Yes.
CUPE has rolling strikes right now, different branches. Not every member of CUPE is striking across the country. If they could bring the country to a screeching halt in minutes.
Right.
Yeah, CUPE is the largest union in the country, and Canadian Union of Public Employees. They could really, if they all decided to walk off the job tomorrow, boy, would we be in for an eye-opening experience.
Yeah. So the TV Ontario employees got 7.7% over 3 years, 7.7. And here's the thing. We are fighting against a government and we're only 74 members.
Mm.
All right. So that was Meredith Martin, TV Ontario's branch president with the Canadian Media Guild. So a group of 74 members took on a government to get a better wage.
And won.
7.7 doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're 74, I guess
that's pretty good numbers, man.
Yeah, but that's over 3 years. I was starting to mention it on the other show, and then I got distracted when I goofed up with the Percy Down things. But the St. Lawrence Seaway strike is over, but so are the strikes at all the auto manufacturers, both in the United States
Mhm.
and Canada. They've all reached their final deals, and they all seem to be rather happy. And we're talking like close to 20% over 3 years. I think in the United States, and I think in Canada, it's a decent amount. They did very well
Mhm.
for themselves. So if, you hear all these people complaining on the web and on social media, oh, they got this, they're going to send us to the poorhouse. Like I said, my job doesn't allow me to have this or have that. It's like, oh, sounds like you're telling me that you probably could benefit from a union.
Yes. That's what it boils down to.
Don't hate the people who got themselves a union, got better stuff than you've got. Don't complain that they should have as little as you got. Think, hey, maybe I should have that too. Maybe I should join a union. There's more
There
than
was a
there's more than
gentleman a
one
few years
solution.
ago. There's a gentleman a few years ago who tweeted something out about how when McDonald's employees in the U.S. were going for fighting for $15 an
Mm.
hour, and somebody said, "Well, I'm a paramedic and I make that much money, and I hope they get to do that too, because I don't care whether I have more training or them than them. What I care about is people are being paid a fair and livable wage. Why shouldn't I champion the little guy who's trying to get more for himself? I should be championing the little guy who's trying to get more for himself or herself or themselves to improve their lot in life. The system wants me to vote against them and get angry when they do it. The system, which is run by billionaire corporations that want us to be fighting amongst ourselves instead of fighting them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm not anything you don't already know, but we need to be reminded of this from time to time.
We do
And
indeed.
this young man was like, he goes, "No, I support their right to fight for 15." Now, I mean, that's a number of years ago, and that
Yes.
number is not livable today
Yeah.
on either side of the border. But you got to remember the minimum wage in the U.S. in many states is about $6 an hour, $6 or $7 an hour. I'm like, come on, how do you live on that?
Yeah, you know. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
I believe we do, good sir. I believe we do.
All right. Kids and Cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Because word of mouth is precious and sharing is caring. Please let your peeps and poops know all about us. We really appreciate that. If you would like to make sure that you do not miss an episode, not at all, then you go to our pod page, which is sponsored by the Ray Girl. And you just bring your phone to that QR code that's right under my lips or my chin, right there. And or you go to podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words, and that way you don't have to miss an episode. And if you'd like to encourage us to do more, oh, who we say, Mr. Cal, I'm an electronic engineer, but I'm not trained to flip burgers. If I were just thrown into that role, there would probably be lots of, I'm going to say food poisoning rather than good poisoning.
Food
See,
poisoning.
and that's why, if he thinks poisoning is good, he probably should not be flipping burgers. Stick to electronics.
But he's right. He's absolutely. I say he. I don't know if PNC Bio is male or female. It's neither here nor there. PNC Bio is correct, though. Correct.
Mm.
And they go, "It's unskilled labor." I go, "Really? Is it? How about you do it for an afternoon and tell me how
No.
unskilled that labor is?"
Yes. No such thing as unskilled labor. No such thing.
Nope.
Let's see, what else do we have for you? Yes, make like Elaine and go to our True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube channel where you can like, share, and subscribe. And if you like our 3 other favorite words, free beer today, well, you could take care of that by going to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all lowercase letters, one word. And that's where you will find the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, where if you slip a couple of toonies in there, you'll make sure that we are very, very, very happy critters. Very
Yes, we
happy.
like that. Yes.
Yes, we like to be
I got to
happy.
pay for all this shit.
Spread the joy.
This is a green screen. It's a green screen.
Ah.
See, I can't actually touch anything because it's green screen. It's a green screen.
From the Beaver Lodge, this is your Beaver saying, it could be a tough world out there, kids. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And a big thank you to our guest today, Artistic Director of Theatre Kingston, Rosemary Doyle, for joining us. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom, please?
I do. Get involved. How you get involved is your decision, and I'm not going to tell you what or how to do it, but get involved in your community, in your neighborhood, whether it's rallying your troops to protest something you disagree with, whether it's writing your MPP, MLA, or counselor. Get involved. Whether it's just sharing this program with people to let them know that there are voices out there that really do, and again, we're facts first, and we want to fight for the goodness of this nation. We want this nation to be the dream that Pierre Trudeau told us it is. And it is a dream and we can realize it, but we need to fight for it. So please get involved. And again, how you get involved is your choice. That's your decision. I'm not going to tell you what to do. This is how I get involved.
Right. We have Kit PNC Bio say, I was a software engineer, not an electronics engineer. That one was not my fault. I only read the script that was sent to me.
No, that was a different person, though. The
Yes,
script that was
indeed.
sent to you, two different people. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mr.
Okay,
Cal.
cool.
So Mr.
Okay.
Cal was
Cool.
right.
Cool. Okay. Then okay. See, you guys are tripping. You guys are tricking me. You guys are tricking me. Tricky kids. Oh, and I forgot the because democracy is something that you do section, but I think Mr. Grizzly covered it. Of course, if you're in the Northwest Territories, make sure because your vote is coming up on the 14th. So all that's taken care of. Mr. Grizzly, please roll them credits.
I can do that, just like the.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
And before we go, just a big congratulations to Team Canada, who have completed the Pan American Games with 164 medals for Canada, the third highest total, 46 gold, 55 silver, and 63 bronze. Lots of Olympic qualifications in the process as well. So that's very good. The Para-Pan Ams start in 11 days, so we will have more people to cheer. Justin Boulet, who is one of our representatives in tennis at the Pan Am Games, came back to Edmonton to play a tournament and won it.
Oh, cool.
Way to go.
Like to welcome our new subscriber, Derek Galloway, Derek Galloway, all the way from Orange Park, Florida. Welcome, Derek.
Welcome, my friend.
Welcome to the fan.
Are you a sort of expat snowbird, or are you an American friend that is joining us? We would love to know.
An engaged citizen.
Yes.
We like engaged citizens, period.
Exactly.
Period.
Okay, Mr. Grizzly, I think we're out.
We are.
All right.
See ya.
Bye, everyone.